Hello, I'm Jen Ives, and this is my podcast, Lobotomy World. How are you? I'm fine, thank you. I'm alright. I'm wonderful. It's so British, isn't it? It's one of the most British things in the world. People ask you how you are, and you just go, yeah, I'm alright. But there's some people when they ask you how you are, they actually want like an honest answer. They actually want like you to say, oh, I've been better. Things have been pretty bad recently. It's been pretty difficult. My mental health is really struggling. But then there are other people that if you say that to them, they go, oh, I was just being polite. Well, in order to make it easier for yourself, that's why we just go, yeah, I'm okay. And I guess I am okay. I'm okay enough to be doing this flipping podcast, which I love to do. And if you haven't noticed, I am in a slightly different area today. Usually I do this podcast sort of from my computer desk or my bed. Or I think last week I did it on the sofa, which it didn't feel right to me. It was comfortable, but it didn't feel... You don't want to be too comfortable when you're doing a podcast, that's the thing. So if you are a video viewer of the podcast, you'll know that I'm in a completely different area. I'm in a corner now. There's a corner in my I was going to say my bedroom, and it is my bedroom. I'm looking at my bed, which is it's a good bed. It's the best bed, but I get self-conscious because a lot of people use podcast studios, or they're rich and they have a conservatory or a garden room. Have you heard of that? A garden room? People have garden rooms now. If you don't know what a garden room is, it's a room that I guess technically counts as a room of your house, but it's not actually connected to the house. It's like an upmarket shed at the bottom of your garden, but it's not made of wood. It's made of like room materials. They usually have like a sliding kind of patio door. You know how like sometimes when you used to watch MTV Cribs and they'd be like, let me take you to my private studio. And they'd go down the garden and then there'd be like a special box room at the back of the garden. In there they would have like a multi-track studio booth for recording their pop singles. It's kind of like that. Some people have one of those. The only reason I even have those on my mind is because I was talking to my boyfriend Christian about just sort of generally about like, oh, what would you like in the future? What would be a fun thing to have, in our dream home or whatever? And I said a garden room where I could film my little videos in, have like a little studio, with lights set up and a green screen or whatever. And he was like, what's a garden room? And that's why I had to kind of like come up with a good explanation as to what a garden room is, and that's why I'm regurgitating it to you now. Either way, I don't have a garden room. I don't have a conservatory, which is something that, funnily enough, statistically, only conservatives have conservatories. Liberal people tend to have squats. And ironically, liberal people don't do squats. Conservatives do more squats than liberal. It's a whole confusing thing. But I like the corner. The corner it feels right. I'm on this kind of like little stool, like a little, I guess, what do you used to call them? A poufet? I mean, it sounds like a slur, but my mum used to say it a lot. She'd go, oh, I want to put my feet up on the poufet. I think it's like one of those, it's like part of a 3-piece suite. This one isn't. This is just like a stool that we found outside somebody's house that they were giving away. And I was like, we're having that. And Christian was like, well, what are we going to do with that? And I said, listen, I'll find something to do with it. And now it's my podcasting stool. And sure enough, it's not the most comfortable thing in the world. But as I was saying, you don't ever want to be too comfortable in life. It's good to be a bit comfortable. It's good to have days off. But from a professional point of view, you don't want to be like too relaxed. So, like I see a lot of these podcasters now, some of the ones who do it from home, They'll do it like at their kitchen table where they have breakfast with their families. Or they'll do it on their big, deep sofa. And they're basically almost falling asleep during the podcast. And I'm thinking, wake up, put some effort into it. We can't all be so laissez-faire, which I believe is French for like a big lazy person. You got to feel a little bit of discomfort. You've got to feel like your back's aching slightly, because when your back is aching, it reminds you that you have to be fun. You have to try and say something funny. And I don't know if I've achieved that yet, to be honest. But you know what it's like, this podcast. There's always a warm-up period. Like, I go for 2 hours on this thing. First hour, free. The second hour, arguably, some people think the better hour, that's available on the Patreon. You have to pay for the second hour. That's the paradox, isn't it? It's sort of like, well, it makes sense actually, because the better hour should be the paid hour. You're paying for something, it should be better. The free hour, I'm not saying the free hour isn't good. The free hour is very good. By anyone else's standards, the free hour would be, people would be watching it and going, I can't believe this is free. How is this free content? But the paid hour is so good that there are people out there who literally pay for it. Shout out to my new Patreons. If you would like to become a Patreon, you can do so by going to www.patreon.com/Lobotomy World. I don't actually know if you have to type www. anymore. It was just a very big part of my culture growing up is, we had website fever. I remember when I was at primary school, before I even could comprehend really what a website was, when I was first learning, I remember we had an IT suite in our South London primary school. And it was very big news, when we got the IT suite, which basically just means a room with some computers in it. But see, it was the early 2000s, and these things had just come out called MacBooks. Those ones that were like see-through, the cool, like colourful ones. And we'd got a bunch of those. And we were all like really mystified by them because the mouse only had one button. Just a mouse with one button. It felt kind of goofy, but at the same time, like, wow, this is the future. In the future, there's only one button necessary. But I remember that the computer room, so they bought all of these like new Apple Mac computers, I think almost entirely funded through crisp vouchers. Like the Walker's Crisps, they used to have like a voucher. Like you could cut out a piece of the Walker's Crisp. This is what it was like back then. It was pre-currency. What you would have to do is there would always be like a deal going on. You'd have to cut out something on a crisp packet and you'd have to collect up like 1,000 of them. And the schools would have like big drives where they would all encourage. Gary Lineker would come and he would say, everybody's got to eat more crisps, okay? He'd come to the assembly and he'd go, listen, we want everybody here eating more crisps, because we need to get those crisp vouchers up so you guys can have Apple Mac computers. So all our parents would be buying crisps and all the kids would be shoveling crisps in their mouth. And Jamie Oliver would be on the other side of the hall going, no, stop it. Please stop eating so much crisp. He would go, you don't have to eat them. You can just, he's like, take the money that you would have spent on the crisps and put that into buying a Mac. Anyway, the point is, our humble little state school in southeast London, we got this banging IT suite, but obviously the school was somewhat skeptical about the Apple Mac computers that they had just bought, so they decided that they wanted to keep one of the old PCs as well. So one kid always used to have to go on the PC because there was only enough Macs for nearly everybody, but there was one PC, so one kid always used to go on the PC. And that's when you really first started to experience the kind of like the dissonance, the difference between the two. You'd be like, this PC sucks. It doesn't even have the dinosaur game on it where you run around collecting dinosaur eggs in 3D. You'd be like, this is shit. Anyway, what I'm trying to say is, I remember that we were always told, I remember it being written on the whiteboard. It was like, this is how you do a website. You have to type in http ... // and in this case it would be patreon.com / Lobotomy World, although it didn't exist back then. How would I have even known? If I could imagine back then the kind of crowdfunding support platforms that there would be, I would have never even bothered to have got an education. I'm a bit sort of, if I seem tired today, it's because I am, but I'm not tired because I've been like, out all night, going crazy on I'm going to do loads of drugs and drink or whatever. I'm tired because, well, first I had to get up early to go to the doctors, because, so that as a trans person, right, I don't know if there are any other trans people watching / listening. I don't know. Sometimes maybe I'm the only one in the whole world. Sometimes I think I might be the only trans woman in the entire universe. I know that's not true. The comments tell me otherwise. I love my trans viewers / listeners. But if you are, then you may very well have to get a regular testosterone blocking injection. I do. I get it every 3 months. Hypothetically, every 3 months. This time it's been 4 months because I've been a little bit out of sorts. I've been a little bit, I'm going to say it, down in the dumps. A little bit not really with it. A little bit sort of crackers, feeling that way anyway. But so for that reason, I that's why the lapse happened and I missed a whole month. So it's been 4 months basically. It doesn't really matter, People, I mean, if you've been on them a certain amount of time, it's just sort of like, here we go, whatever. Anyway, my doctor's surgery though is nowhere near where I live. My doctor's surgery is like an hour and a half away by public transport. And you might be thinking, wow, Jen, that sounds really stupid. Like, why don't you register with a GP that's nearer to you? And it's like, yeah, okay, I could do that. But I think that's one of the examples that shows sort of like how little people understand the plight of the trans person. Because when you are trans, actually, finding a GP that is chill, cool, rad, and or, did I say cool? I'm going to say it again, cool, can be tricky. GP surgeries in the UK, it's kind of a toss-up sometimes as to whether or not, you're going to get an understanding one, whether the reception staff are going to be understanding about you and your lifestyle choice, as people like to call it, or if the GP themselves is going to be able to understand. Sometimes I've seen GPs where, and this is the honest to God's truth, I don't think they know what I am. They assume what I am, and then they look at their notes like, what's all this? What's the gender clinic? What does this mean? We don't know how to treat you. And listen, this is a very real problem right now. This is one thing that I really personally worry about, the way that things are going for trans people right now, particularly, with the Supreme Court and the Cass report, and just the way that trans healthcare is kind of in a bit of a shambles, and waiting lists and stuff. I do genuinely worry about the prospect of, trans healthcare being rolled back. I mean, it has been for young people, teenagers and such. I don't know if it's completely alarmist to then also worry that, the things that you need in order to get by as a trans person, hormones and such, I do worry that those things might become unavailable. And there have been a fair amount of cases that show that because of the, the Cass report and all the misleading ridiculousness inside of it, a lot of GPs now apparently feel uncomfortable with treating trans people or knowing how to do it, or, you know, prescribing medication to trans people. And it's like, what do you mean you feel uncomfortable? Like, you're supposed to know this stuff. That's your job. I'm sure you don't have an intrinsic knowledge of every single, like, medication that you prescribe. I know that for a case. A lot of GPs, you know, there's a reason they have that computer in front of them, you know. A lot of GPs Google stuff, which is alarming. But so what I'm saying is that I've had bad GPs before. And I think when you stumble across one where you like the vibe, you like the people in there, you know, the pharmacist team in there, they have a built-in pharmacy and they're always really good with me. You know, if I need an adjustment on my antidepressants or anything like that, they're always very sympathetic. They take the time to phone me. My nurse, shout out Nurse Bernice. Love her. Love Nurse Bernice. I tell you what I like about Nurse Bernice. Not only is she just delightful, she also is she's one of those nurses where she's very good at giving injections. I'm not squeamish when it comes to injections anyway. Like, I don't get, you know, weak at the knees from seeing a big long needle. I'm like, go on, stick it in me. I just want to feel something, you know, that's my vibe. But she does it in a way that communicates pure confidence, experience, and care. She's like bloody Florence Nightingale is my Bernice. It goes in, you barely feel a thing. You feel she does it so, like, she knows what she's doing. She does it so you do feel it a bit, because, you know, she wants you to know that she's doing it. But it doesn't hurt. It's great. And this is the thing, when you have these connections, these relationships with a medical team, you want to hang on to them. And unfortunately, I rent in London, which means when you rent in London, you know, there's no stability. If you rent in London, price increases on the rent, which I've had before, like quite drastic ones, and I've even attempted to fight them before. And I don't just mean the increase, I've attempted to physically fight the estate agent, not really. Although, you know, it can come close to that. They're such shits a lot of the time, they really are. I know it's very in vogue at the moment to be like, landlords stink or whatever. But you know what they do? That's evergreen. That's an evergreen opinion. I've never met a landlord or a estate agent, for that matter, that I've thought was chill in the way that Bernice is chill, you know? So as a result of that, when you find the perfect GP surgery, you'd be a fool, really, to leave. So now I live, you know, over an hour and a half away from that GP surgery. But I make the pilgrimage. I make the effort. I take the train and the tube to go and have my holy injection done. And I don't know what the other doll's reaction is to the testosterone blocking injection. Mine is called, Decapeptyl. I don't know what your reaction is. The way I react to it is that I, throughout the day, start to become extremely lethargic and tired, and I tend to fall asleep about 6-7 p.m. Also, weirdly, I always feel like I need to do a poo. Might be too much information, that, but, you know, while we're being real, while we're being truthful with each other, that's how it feels. And here's the thing, you don't have to tell the GP that you've moved. That's not something you have to do. But if you do tell them, you can say, like, listen, I love coming here. I love all of you. Can I please continue to come here? And a lot of the time they will make an exception for you. Especially someone like me who is bloody charming. They're like, Jen, They're like, we don't want you to go. In fact, my GP surgery, they offered me a job as a GP. And I said, what are you talking about? I'm not qualified for that. I don't know what I'm doing. And they said, it doesn't matter. They said, you've just got such a good rapport with people. They said, you're just such a good listener. You've got great common sense. I said, no, listen, I can't take on that. I'm sorry, I'd love to, but I can't. It wouldn't be right. And they said, well, listen, you're an honorary GP. Like, not in the sense of, like, I can't practice medicine. I can't prescribe. But it's a bit like how you get, like, a doctorate, like an honorary doctorate. You know how, like, universities sometimes will give, like, they'll give, like, a 2-1 to Tom Cruise in... They'll give, like, a 2-1 to Tom Cruise in quantum physics because he was in, like, a movie where he got to go in a spaceship or something. And they'll be like, that's an honorary doctorate. And they're like, we can't do anything with it, but it's just to kind of show you that we love you, Tom. Oh, yeah, washing machine news. You're not going to believe this. This is crazy. I can't. If you've been listening to this podcast, you'll know that I've been having a bit of a washing machine drama in which our washing machine broke, and for the last couple of weeks we have been confined to washing our clothes in the bath, like some sort of Oliver Twist, like some sort of Charles Dickens character in a hot boiling clothes soup that we had to stir with a big stick. Guess what? We got a new washing machine. We did. We got a new washing machine, and I'm one of those people that I get quite attached to inanimate objects. I personify them. I don't mean to. I don't do it intentionally, but like I give them personas. I think of them as like people. Not literally, but there is a bit of it, you know? I don't know why that is. I don't know where that comes from. I remember when I was a kid, when I used to like walk down the stairs, sometimes I used to jump over the last step just out of habit, but then I would be like, oh no, I have to go back and put my foot on the last step just so it knows that I don't think less of it. I'm not like leaving it out kind of thing. Personally, I think it's having an overabundance of empathy. That's right, I've twisted it in a way to make me sound like a better person. I think I'm too empathetic, too much of an empath. I've got so much empathy that it's going everywhere. It's going to just like trees and stuff. So the last washing machine, obviously I did feel quite sad when it died. I felt sadder about it dying than pets or family members. No, I'm kidding. I'm not Ricky Gervais. I care about people as well as animals and inanimate objects. That's one of the things about Gervais that I deeply don't trust. There's a lot of things about him that I don't trust, but one of the main things is he doesn't seem to like people. I think his writing, his directing, his stand-up comedy all communicates one thing: he hates people. But he loves dogs. He's like, I love cats and dogs, and not bothered about fish so much, but I love, animals. I'm an animal person. That's kind of his whole gimmick, isn't it? He's like, oh, there's nothing more beautiful than the loving look of a dog's eyes. But trans people, you can go and get fucked. That's kind of like his whole vibe. I don't like the homeless, but I love a hamster. Gervais is like, immigrants, give me a break. But, oh, you know what? I love a little fox or whatever. So what are your priorities, man? Like, you need to like sort it out a little bit. You know that dog in Afterlife? I reckon he was bumming that dog. That's just my opinion, okay? I don't have any proof for it. The only proof I have for it is that sometimes in that series, if you look at the dog, if you focus on what the dog is doing, it kind of looks like it's trying to get away. It has a look in its eyes that is saying, "Get me away from Gervais. He bums me." So the washing machine, it's new. It looks space age. It's when you have a washing machine, when you move into a flat and there's a washing machine in there, usually that washing machine has probably been there quite a long time, okay? God knows how long that washing machine was here, maybe 10 years. I reckon that's about how long a good washing machine should last. Well, so this washing machine's brand new and not much has changed. It's not like it has any like additional features that I can see. It doesn't do anything special that I know of. Maybe it does. Maybe it's a bit like a video game. Like maybe there's like a cheat code for it. Sometimes electronics have cheat codes. I remember that my old DVD player had, like, it was region locked, right? Back in the days when we had DVD players, you would buy a DVD and a DVD would be for like a specific region. They have like locks on them. So you buy a DVD from HMV or whatever and it would be like, this is PAL, this is UK only. And occasionally, you know, you would want something on DVD that wasn't available on the high street. It wasn't available in the UK. You had to import it from the States or something. Like if you wanted, I don't know, the entire series of Bewitched, the original sitcom, or The Munsters, or Home Movies by Brendan Smollett. If you wanted something like that, you would have to buy it, and then you put it in the DVD player, and it would be like, sorry, you can't play this disc. This is American. How dare you try to break the law? You're going to prison. Well, I looked up on the internet and there was a thing that said, oh, you know, there was a site. It was like, choose your DVD player. You choose your DVD player. And it was like, choose the model. And you choose the model. And it goes, okay, on the menu screen, if you press this combination of buttons on the control, it unlocks the region lock. And you can play any DVD you want. And you know what? That works. So I don't know if the washing machine has any features like that. I don't know if there's a way to like wash the clothes faster by going up, down, left, right, square, circle, or whatever. Or maybe there's a cheat code for like, maybe there's one where you can do it and it makes the clothes dirtier, like for fun. But I did say that, you know, when we got the new washing machine, I would take a video of it in action during a cycle. And I wasn't lying. I don't lie. Roll the clip. See? Exciting stuff. I did actually briefly get quite sucked into a subculture on the internet of people who love washing machines. They're like washing machine enthusiasts and they race their washing machines. Not like down the street. They don't like, there's no like starting pistol or whatever. It's what they do is they'll have like two washing machines, or not necessarily in the same room, but they'll get a washing machine and then they'll see how efficiently it does like a spin cycle, and then they'll like time it against another washing machine and see who can do the same thing the best, quickest, I think is what they're doing. I don't really understand it. It's quite a complicated world. It's a bit like Fight Club, you know, you can't just get in on it. You have to know somebody who knows somebody. So one of the things that I've been up to this week is I have been making a video, a YouTube video, and the video is all about trans-hating gay men. That's the theme of it. It focuses specifically on a few different content creators. It's not like a hit piece. I'm not trying to like come for anybody, but it's more my attempt to sort of like look into a little bit why we have this strange offshoot of kind of bitter, weird gay men who seem to hate trans people, basically. You know the kind I'm talking about, the sort of like, the ones who advocate to separate the LGB from the T. And I'm not going to go too much into it now because I'm making a whole video about it. I've written the video, I've filmed little bits of it, and I just need to like do the rest of it. It's one of those ones that's a bit of an undertaking, you know, it's taking a long time to make. I was hoping to have it out this week. I think realistically, it probably won't come out until next week now, just because it's one of those ones that, you know, like when you're making something and you have an idea and then you start it and then you're like, oh wait, there's a lot more to this than I thought. You know, there's a lot of other layers to this whole thing, and it would be unfair on myself to just like put it out on like a basic level. So I just want to take another week. Also, as I said, the truth is, I've been struggling a little bit this week. I've been not having a great week, so it's just one of those things where it's like you just have to take your time. You know, you just have to not rush things. And as a result of making a video about trans hating gay guys, what it means is that I have to watch a lot of videos of really dumb gay guys saying like really awful things about trans people. And I think that sometimes I don't really realise how much of an effect stuff like that has on me. Like, I'm one of those people that I like to kind of present this front that I'm like, fuck you, you fucked with the wrong tranny. Do you know what I mean? Like, you know, I'm not like those other ones. I'm not a wallflower. I'm not sensitive. And I don't know where that comes from, you know. I do know what it comes from. It comes from sort of a frustration of being perceived as a victim all the time. I think trans people are constantly... The problem is, right, we're constantly portrayed as victims, which is negative and damaging. But also we are, you know, for no fault of our own, we often are victims of hate crime, of draconian laws, of just, you know, just a really kind of fucked up society. So it's annoying. And sometimes you kind of want to be like, no, like, I'm not a victim. Like, I'm actually like really strong and actually really kind of like got my shit together. And I'm actually really smart and actually like, I can be just as acid tongued and I can just be just as like nasty as you. But there is an element of fronting to that. I think it's because like even allies, when they're trying to stick up for us, it still always comes down to this thing of like, leave trans people alone, you know? They're one of the most vulnerable groups. And again, it's like, I'm not going to argue with that. Like, we kind of are. But also, I don't know, it doesn't do a lot for your sort of mental health to think of yourself that way all the time. It's like, because on the one hand, it's like, yeah, we can be vulnerable. We can be at risk. But on the other side of the coin, we go through a lot and we have a lot of resilience, actually, like a crazy amount. Like some of the things that we achieve in our lives, despite, you know, the barriers that we have up against us, are incredible. Like when you actually sit back and think about it, you're like, God, like I did all that. That's why like it always is so funny to me when someone will criticize me online for like my appearance or my voice or my fringe or like someone will call me like a man, or they'll say like you're wearing a wig, or just any kind of like nasty shit like that. Anything that implies that I am failing at what I set out to do. Because that's what they love to do, you know, they love to dehumanize you, they like to delegitimize your identity. They think that by telling you that you're somehow failing at achieving, you know, womanhood, or like, oh, I've clocked you, or whatever, you know, you look like a man, or it's like, they think that that is some sort of huge own or something. But the truth is like, I'm happy with how I look. For the most part, I am. I look at myself in the mirror and I don't think, oh God, like, I'll never be, like, I look in the mirror and I think I'm exactly where I want to be. So often it's not me that has the problem. It's like everything around me. It's the outside world like pushing in on me and making me feel like shit. If I was just on my own, or if I was on like an island of just trans people, I'd feel great, you know? It's society really that has the problem. And I guess I feel like if I don't address it sometimes, I feel like if I don't push back and greet them with like the same vitriol or the same energy as they give me, I feel like I have failed. I've let myself down. I've not fought back adequately enough. I've not defended myself. But, you know, all these things, they do have a residual effect. And it's interesting that even when you don't feel it at the moment, like in the moment that it's happening, like I can go like weeks thinking I'm all right, and then it'll all just hit me at once mentally. Like back in the day, like when I went to the LGBT Alliance conference, I don't know if you know this, but like when the LGBT Alliance had their first conference, I went to it with a friend as a joke, like to kind of, not even to like fuck with it, like the way that I thought about it was like, the fact that this conference is happening is crazy. The fact that these bigots have achieved charity status in this country is a nightmare. And the fact that they're trying to have this like weird fruity little event where like no trans people allowed. I mean, although they don't actually say that, you know, the implication of it being LGB separate from the T, this is an event just for LGB people. I was like, no bitch, like I'm gonna go. Because this is a public event, like anyone can buy a ticket to this. So I bought a ticket and me and my friend went, and it was interesting, you know. It turned out to be a bit of a nightmare. I met some awful people, some truly like cancerous, disgusting people who really made a fool of themselves, I think. And there was one moment in particular where this guy got really irate because I was using the women's toilets, and he like tried to intimidate me, like screamed in my face, called me a man, and like I did think I thought he was going to hit me a couple of times, and then I got like surrounded by loads of like turfy women who were all like shouting at me, basically like berating me. It was a bizarre, surreal experience. Anyway, the only reason I'm dredging all this up again is to say that like at the time when it happened, you know, it got some publicity, and I got a bunch of followers for it and all this kind of shit. And, you know, I felt like I'd done something. I felt like I'd like done a little bit of activism or something. And I was like, okay, like I've somehow managed to show some people what these lot are like. And I thought I was okay. You know, I for a little while was like, okay, you know, I did that and I'm hard. I mean, not literally, but like, I was just like, you know, I can take it. You know that, you know, in Peep Show where he's like, I'm Louis Theroux, I'm Louis Theroux, I'm Louis Theroux. That's how I felt. I was like, I'm doing journalism. I'm going in deep. I'm doing an investigation here. I can handle this. But, you know, as tough as I am, a couple of months after that, it all kind of caught up with me. And the hate that I was receiving and the sort of vitriol and all that kind of stuff that people talk about is very real. And I had a little bit of a breakdown at the time. And because of everything that's going on now, I can definitely feel something kind of similar happening. Like, not that I'm going to have a breakdown, but I don't know, I feel a bit delicate. And the reason I'm even going over all this shit is just to tell you that, like, you know, I'm still making that video, but I don't make it with the intention to be like, I'm going to war with these trans-hating gays on the internet. I'm making it because I want to look into it a little bit and I want to make a point. I've got a few points that I want to make just about the character of these types of people and the reasons why they might think the way they do, and just see if we can sort of like figure this out. Spoiler, we can't. I don't have any of the answers for it, but I think what's hard about being a trans person online is and in the real world, you know, it's not just the real world is hard enough, and that's it, you know, the real world is hard enough. But when you're online, when you're somebody who makes videos or like puts yourself out there in any context, in any kind of way, as a trans person, it's a strange one. It's you really can't win. If you put out content that isn't to do with being trans, that's all people comment about it. And if you do make stuff about being trans, people just have such visceral reactions to you. And this isn't new to me. You know, I've been doing this for like 12, 13 years at this point. It's just knowing when to look after yourself, I guess. And I'm very bad at looking after myself. Very, very bad at it. This is something that I realise. And I've had people tell me, people that are close to me and care about me, tell me that I'm not good at it. And I know that. So yeah, guys, expect the video at some point early next week, possibly not early, possibly somewhere later in the week. But the video will come out. The way I'm feeling about my fellow trans women and trans men and non-binary folks right now is, this is going to sound corny as hell, but I just love them. You know, I did a gig the other night. It was a fundraiser gig for this great charity counselling service called ELOP, which is like an LGBT hub counselling service. Great cause. It was a comedy fundraiser. It was a really good night. And in my set, you know, I was a bit ranty. It was a great night. It was fun. But I was, you know, railing about some stuff. I was talking about trans issues and stuff, blah, blah, blah. And after it, you know, I met this trans guy who was we were just having a conversation about the state of things. And ultimately, you know, what it came down to was just like, can we just have a hug, you know? That's how I feel right now. Well then, I think that covers pretty much everything that I wanted to say for the first half of the podcast anyway. It got a little bit, I'm not going to say emotional, but, you know, I was being a little bit vulnerable in that one. I think 7 episodes in, I think you're allowed to get a little bit vulnerable. Or else, what else are people listening for? You can only be ironic for so long, can't you? You can only be the fool for so long, and then you have to give a little bit of yourself. That's the pact. Either way, you know, I hope everyone is doing. Here's the thing: when you do a weekly podcast and you are truly dedicated to wanting to do it weekly, which I really do, I mean, I'll be honest, in the past, a week like this week, I won't go into it too much, but like a week like this week, usually I would have been like, I'm not doing it. I'll just leave it. Fuck it. Who cares? But I don't want to do that. I want to do this, and I enjoy this, and I like that I have subscribers who like listening and watching. It means a lot to me. So I'm going to do it. And if I'm not feeling great on one day, let that just be the podcast, I feel like maybe that might be, if not what the podcast scene needs, it's what I need. I don't do therapy, and I'm not saying this is therapy and it shouldn't be therapy. But you can't argue that it's good to speak things out loud. Sometimes when you speak things out loud, you get a better idea of how you feel about them. And this podcast at the moment is really important to me. It's sort of my way of, expressing how I feel in a landscape where we're not really given the chance to do that, I'm not seeing a hell of a lot of trans voices on TV or on the radio or in any kind of like mainstream avenues like talking about any of this stuff. And for that reason, we need to be talking to each other. At the very least, we need to be doing stuff like this. Not that what I'm doing is like important or anything, but I don't know, like some of you seem to like it, so that's as important enough for me as it needs to be. Anyway, I'm going to record the second hour now of the podcast. I've got some things to talk about. I'm probably going to talk about how cis women have been affected by these bathroom policies. I'm going to talk about Pride and the political parties that have been banned from it. And I'm also going to talk about Woman's Hour, the BBC Radio 4 series that is focused on, it's like a magazine show for women, i.e., well, let's be honest, cis, straight, white women is who the show is for. Anyway, if you're interested in hearing about those topics, then you should probably subscribe to the Patreon, patreon.com/Lobotomy World. I believe you can subscribe for as little as, I think, £3.50, I think, might be wrong. And you get access to a whole extra podcast every week, as well as lots of other stuff, like stand-up comedy clips that I have done. That whole set that I did for the ELOP Comedy Fundraiser, I've uploaded as audio for you to listen to. I'm not really into like posting a load of my stand-up on public platforms at the moment. I think it does it an injustice, and it's, it just becomes like just content, and I'm kind of sick of that. I'm kind of bored of it. I'm not really bothered about it like going viral. I just want the people who like my stuff to enjoy it. So there's loads of stand-up on there and loads of other weird projects as well. But yeah, hope you're having a nice weekend, and I hope this coming week is a better one for you and for me, and for podcasting in general. Let's make podcasts listenable again. Or Jen, let's not evoke slogans from the right wing. It's not a good idea. All right, see you on the other side. Oh yeah, and obviously subscribe to me on Instagram. Follow me on Instagram at I'm Jen Ives. Okay, bye.